Hi, my name is Jay Leeming, and I am a performance storyteller from the Finger Lakes area of upstate New York. This is a short film I'm making about the Epic of Gilgamesh and the story of how it came to us to be alive in the present day. The Epic of Gilgamesh comes from Mesopotamia, ancient Mesopotamia. Mesopotamia meaning the land between the rivers Tigris and Euphrates. Those two rivers where civilization began, as far as we know. So it was prevalent in that area. It was told by storytellers there for over a long period of time, and probably dates from about 3000 BCE, before the Common Era. Probably. It was collected in 700 CE. A king named Ashurbanipal took a whole bunch of texts, everything he could find, and he collected them and translated them from the Sumerian language to the Akkadian language and had them all in a big library there. He was later overthrown, and that city was destroyed, and time went on. The story of Gilgamesh was forgotten, you could say. Time passed. Many things happened. Buddha was born. Buddhism was born. Christ was born. Muhammad had a vision in a cave. All of the map was changed. The Industrial Revolution came. Engines. Humans began cutting things down and making things in new ways. So we go through all this history. We get to the 19th century, when a fellow named Austin Henry Layard is over there, and he is looking for old things to dig up. He finds a mound there. He's looking for old cities. There's just mounds of earth, pretty much, and nothing there. But he thinks that perhaps this is the city itself. He digs into a mound. Eventually, I'm making a very long story very short here, just so you know, he finds an old library. He finds the library of Ashurbanipal, a buried library, thousands of years old, and there are thousands of clay tablets there with cuneiform inscriptions in them. Cuneiform, an alphabet done by taking a reed and pressing it into clay. So these were all there. He shipped these clay tablets, about 25,000 clay tablets, to the British Museum. And we could have a little footnote here. Did he steal them? Well, he kind of stole them. At the same time, nobody there objected to this, apparently. So the story says. None of them, they thought he was kind of nuts for digging this stuff up. And lest we get a little snooty and potentially racist as well, we should consider that probably in England, many people would have said the same. Why are you digging that stuff up? What does it matter? In any case, he dug these things up, and with a lot of other folks, shipped them to the British Museum. Then people began working on translating them, which was very difficult. A man named Henry Rawlinson succeeded in kind of cracking the ancient language, and then a fellow named George Smith worked to translate these clay tablets. George Smith worked for a printer in London, and that was his job. Not a fantastic job. He had an hour-and-a-half lunch hour every day, which seems pretty luxurious to us, but that was the way it was then. He had just enough time to walk to the British Museum, look at these tablets, and then walk back to his job. He was really intensely fascinated by these tablets, and by biblical history in particular. Now, the British Museum, there's no electric lights at this time. We're talking 1870 or so. And there were some lamps only used for special scholars. He was not a special scholar. He was just some guy coming in. So we can imagine him there in the rooms of the British Museum, peering at these tablets in that climate with fog outside, perhaps, clouds, trying to decipher them. And he was pretty much a genius at language, it turns out, and was able to translate these old clay tablets. And one of the things he found was what they call the Flood Tablet, which is the story of the flood created by the gods to destroy humanity. And he found this. It's amazing. I mean, 25,000 tablets, that's one of the ones he found early on. Quite remarkable. So he found that tablet in 1872. The contents of that tablet were announced to the public. And imagine for yourself what's going on here. We've got a Christian society, largely. Think about the stories in England, right? We've got a pagan Celtic past with Norse influences, things like that. That is then overrun by Christianity. And the pagan belief system is actively destroyed, much in the way that, well, let's say Native American belief systems in the Americas have been attacked by forces outside of themselves. So, long story short, Celtic pagan stories. Christianity comes in. Then we get the scientific story, which has its beginnings in the Enlightenment, of course, and the Renaissance. That story is there, and at this time it was competing in a way because Darwin had been talking about the origin of the species and how we are descended from apes and gorillas. And so at this time, these two things were duking it out. The Christian story there, laid down, as I've said, on top of the pagan story, the Christian story, and then the scientific story of rational thought, enlightenment. We're going to get rid of all so-called superstition. And then suddenly we get this story from the past, which is a flood story, and it predates the Bible. It is earlier than the Bible, which many would say is the Word of God. So what does that mean? Just think how that twists your head around. I mean, take on those beliefs, whether or not you have them. Take them on for a moment. The Bible is the Word of God. Christianity is the truth. Science comes in, bang, we're descended from apes. What does that mean? And then the flood story, this is from another place, older than the Bible. How can that fit together? These two, all of these ideas don't quite cohabitate so well. So that is how the Gilgamesh story was rediscovered. And it has endured to the present day. And it's kind of an amazing thing that it survived. Smith died in 1876, 4 years after that flood tablet was released. And the story, of course, to my mind, speaks a lot about the dangers of civilization. It begins with an evil king who oppresses the people. It's as if this story, which is pretty much the oldest story known, there's one other, but it's also from Mesopotamia, but this one story, it's like it's questioning civilization itself and kingship. Should we have kings? We have a king in this story, and he is pretty evil. He's a bully. He's a dictator who abuses everyone, so that people cry out to the gods to be saved from him. As we move deeper into the consequences of climate change and into a future which is very uncertain, a future in which the survival of the human species is actually in question, many would say, I think this story has a lot of relevance for us because it wrestles with some of these key questions. How should we manage our desires, our needs, and our hungers? How do we do with this amazing thing we have, this ability to think and to plan and to build and to create things? And how does that affect the world around us? And how should we harness that? How should we dance with that so that there may be harmony between us and the natural world and we don't end up killing ourselves off? So these are thoughts which come to my mind when considering the Epic of Gilgamesh. And I wanted to share with you that story of how it came here, because it's kind of a narrow escape for a story, and a crazy story that it actually is here at all, to flourish among us like some wild flower, and to teach us new things. Thank you for watching this video, and take care.